Hi guys. Today I want to do a little short video on my propagating bed. Um, I can remember when I was little, my dad and I would sit for hours in the living room watching TV and doing cuttings. We would take uh, some of the cuttings off of plants that he was trimming. He did a little bit of nursery work and landscape work on the side, and he'd come home with these black bags with different types of cuttings, and would sit there, strip them, and dip them in hormone, and then get them ready to go into the propagating bed. This is similar to what he had. Um, it's basically just a frame, a box that he had sand, and also he had vinyl tubing running in the bottom of it to heat it. Um, so this does not have a heat source. This is just for propagating softwood cuttings. Um, you could do hardwood cuttings, but just do it without any heat. I'm not saying that this is the best way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, but this is how I do it. So let me bring you in and I'll show you what the components are of this. Okay, as we come up to it, you can see that there's a lot of condensation in here, and that's one of the major components for doing rooting. Um, I have, maybe I pulled this. This is a 1/4 inch piece of glass on top. It is 2 by 4, 2 feet by 4 foot, and which is a little heavy, but that's required for whenever the wind's blowing, so it doesn't blow away. But as you can see, the condensation's dripping off the glass back into the propagating frame, and the heat is in here from the ambient temperature and the overhead lighting. So you cannot let this get in direct sunlight. If I step back, you can see that the building is shading a pretty good bit. It's right up to the bottom of those barrels. So if you let this get in direct sunlight, everything in here will be fried. It will not take long at all. And some of these cuttings, they root really quick, and some take a little longer. It's just different types of plants take a little bit different times. But over here, I have what most people have in their yards. It's just the hydrangea. It's a mop head big leaf hydrangea, microphylla. This one, I'm just playing around with these. I do not know the cultivar of them, but they've been here on my property it's an old homestead built in the 50s, and they've been here for a very long time. But I'm just playing with these, and I'm not planning on selling these because I don't know the variety. But as you can see, they all started out much like this one here. You can see it's just two little leaves that I've cut, and this one has put on growth in the center there. It's got two. Now on these big leaf hydrangeas, they bloom on last season's growth. So even though you see that I've got there's two shoots coming up on this one plant, this year there's no way that it will produce a bloom. Now, if I was to let this get on up another 4 or 5 inches, something like that, and then come up and nip it, and then let it start putting out again and have enough time for it to grow on out some, it's possible next year, whenever I pot this up into a 1 gallon pot, that it can have some blooms. But Now, if I leave this alone, these two right here, they'll both shoot on up the rest of this season. This is July the 5th, so we've got quite a bit of growing here in North Alabama. And so when these grow on out, if I don't cut them, they have a chance to bloom next year. But that'll only be 2 stalks, and that will look kind of leggy. So if I come in and let it get up, another 3 or 4 inches, and I nip it, and then let them sprout out some more, then I'll probably have about 6 or 8 limbs coming out, and each one of those have a potential of having blooms on it next year, and it'll make for a better looking, fuller plant. But like I said, I'm just playing with these big leaf hydrangeas. Now here, there's just some paniculata type hydrangeas. One looks like it's doing pretty good. I'm not too sure about these other 3. And I'm not sure what the variety is. I don't know if it's a limelight, little lime, or if it's a silver dollar. I'm not sure. All of those are kind of popular in this area. I'm just playing with it. I've got a spot that I'm going to, I might put it in my yard. I'm not sure. I might just go ahead and buy a plant that I know the variety and go from there. Over here, I have some oak leaf hydrangeas. Now, these are not a named cultivar. Oak leaf hydrangea is native to the United States. You might have seen ruby slippers. Those were found in Tennessee and has been cultivated. And each plant is different. It's just like us. Each person is different. We all look different. We grow different, and so it's the same way with these plants. Same thing. You might get one that blooms earlier every year, or you might get one that stays a little bit more white or a little bit more red or whatever. And people just keep that one plant, take cuttings off of it, because when you take a cutting, you are cloning. So that is how they get these different cultivars. And let's say one of these turned out pink whenever it first started, which it won't, because oak leaf hydrangeas, whenever they bloom, they are a white, and then they start changing colors and they start blushing pink as time goes on through the summer. But if one of these came out and was a really bright, vibrant pink or red or whatever color it might come out, and I started taking cuttings off of this, then I went and got a patent and went through the process of patenting this, then I would have royalties off of it. And that's why some of these others, it's not good to propagate if you don't know the variety, because you might be propagating something that's illegal to sell. Now, if you're propagating it for yourself to put in your yard, garden, whatever, that's fine. You can propagate it and put it throughout your yard, no problem. But these cuttings were taken just right down the road. They've been blooming really well all season this year. And so I really liked how they were performing. So I went and got, I went and got about 9 cuttings off of it. And 3 of them definitely did not make it. These 6 here seem to be doing pretty well. Here I have a brown turkey fig. When I was doing a little bit of mowing, I knocked off one of the limbs, so I stuck it. I've got a magma corabelle. Now it is patented, so I cannot propagate this to sale. So I'll be just putting that in my mulch bed in my front yard. Here I have pink lemonade blueberries. those are not patented, and they seem to be doing pretty well. I've got, I don't know, there's uh, 11, 12, 13. I got 13. Started out with 17, and I've got 13 left. Now, this one, this cup right here, this is Luna Magic. It's a crepe myrtle. You'll see this in a lot of the box stores. It's got the real dark red, uh, burgundy black color leaves. The Luna Magic is a white blooming crepe myrtle. It is patented, so I cannot sell this plant. But I do have a couple cuttings here that I'm going to grow out and plant in my yard. This is a new variety. It was patented in 2018, so the patent will not run out on the Luna Magic until 2038. So any propagation of Luna Magic without buying the copyright, um, then you're doing it illegally. Now over here, this is how my dad and I did our cuttings. We just had sand in the box, and we did our cutting. Dipped them in the root hormone, cut the leaves, and stuck them in the sand. The sand is very moist. It's not wet. You know, it's supposed to be able to drain. But with the glass on it, it keeps the humidity up real high, so it does not evaporate out. I have scubbinons right here. This is I do not know the cultivar, and on that, it does not really matter as much for on the cultivar for me. I'm just growing those for my own personal use. Um, if I was going to be taking cuttings and selling them, then it would. Um, I just like the scuppernons that come off of this particular vine. Uh, so they're really big and a nice golden and very sweet. Now, in the back here, I have some Japanese maple cuttings. These are off of they're a lace leaf variety, and they are weeping. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Japanese cuttings. Um, they seem to be pretty hard to root from what I understand. And a lot of them, whenever they do root, do not perform very well. So most of the ones you see in your big box stores are grafted. And to graft those, I need some root stock and raise those up from seedlings. And then when they get up to maybe pencil size, take and graft in um, the particular variety that I would want to use. Um, so I'm not sure how this particular variety will do. It might not root. I've got, I don't know, there's probably a dozen of them in there. I'm hoping that one of them, at least one of them roots. But if it don't, then it's nothing lost but just a little bit of time. And they're not taking up that much space. And actually, I've got them spread out a pretty good bit. You only have to have about a 1-inch spacing between these plants whenever you root them. So if I was doing this commercially, to where I was trying to get a large number of rooted plants, I'd take these little containers out, and I would just fill it all with sand, and then I would come in and put all my cuttings, and I would do them in rows, and make sure you put a label, because some of these you pull them out during the winter months whenever they are dormant, and a lot of them look the same. A stick looks like a stick, and which Some of them will still have some leaves or different texture bark, but there's so many varieties that look alike. So it's best to make sure you label everything. Okay, on my propagating bed, it is 24 inches wide, 4 foot long, and 11 inches deep. Now, none of those measurements mean anything to those plants. And the reason why I built it that dimension is because of that piece of glass. I already had the glass, and that's something I didn't have to buy. So I just built it to measurement. There's no special material. This is a plywood. It's a scrap from where I work. It just so happens to have a fiberglass covering on the inside and then a water barrier on the outside, which you can use untreated, you can use treated, whatever kind of wood. You know, you can take two frames made out of 2x6s or 1x6s and stack them on top of each other. You just want to have enough room that whenever these plants are rooting, that they're not hitting the glass. You know, like I said, this is 11 inches on the sides, but so minus 3/4 of an inch because that's the thickness of the material. So that's 10 1/4 inches on the inside. I've just got mine in red Solo cups. Nothing special, nothing fancy. Them plants don't care. I'm not selling them like this, so it does not matter what they're in. They're doing the job. The little holders that I got, it's just something I came up with out of some scrap fiberglass and a couple little old boards that was going in the dumpster. Just took a hole saw, cut me some holes so my Solo cups will fit in. It just keeps them from tipping over, and it's so much easier to carry them. I use those little carriers there for when I'm carrying vegetable plants into work. When I'm giving them to my friends or selling them at work, I'll carry them in those, and it keeps them from falling over in the truck. It just makes things a lot more easier. But that's all I got. So I appreciate you watching. God bless.